Let's talk about something once as American as apple pie. A cultural icon, a symbol of our nation's spirit, Coca-Cola. That ubiquitous name, instantly recognizable around the globe, that sweet, bubbly drink fueled everything from late-night study sessions, powering students through exams and deadlines. It was the go-to refreshment for countless scholars, to birthday parties, family gatherings, and summer barbecues. It was a staple of celebrations big and small. And now, in a twist no one saw coming, a plot twist worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster, it's gone, vanished, disappeared from the American landscape. Yes, Coca-Cola has left the United States, packed up its bags and bid farewell to its homeland. The red trucks are gone, no longer gracing our streets with their iconic presence. The bottling plants shuttered, their machinery silent, their workforce displaced. And the polar bears are out of a job, their heartwarming commercials now a relic of the past. This isn't a joke or a punchline, this is a stark reality. As of last month, the Coca-Cola Company has ceased all U.S. operations, a decision that has sent shockwaves through the nation. No more bottling in Atlanta, the city where it all began, no more Coke at your local diner, the quintessential American experience. It's a seismic shock to the American identity, a cultural earthquake that has left many wondering what went wrong. So, how did we get here? How did a company with a museum in Atlanta, a shrine to its own legacy, decide to ghost 330 million people? The answer, a baffling, self-inflicted political mess, a perfect storm of governmental missteps. It's a story of stubborn politicians entrenched in their ideologies, disastrous trade policies that backfired spectacularly, and a government playing chicken with a global giant only to lose, leaving the American people to pay the price. The departure of Coca-Cola isn't just about losing a drink, it's a harbinger of economic woes to come. It's about hundreds of thousands of jobs vanishing, leaving families struggling to make ends meet, supply chains collapsing, disrupting the flow of goods and services across the nation, and Wall Street panicking as investors lose confidence in the American economy. This is a national identity crisis served over ice, a bitter pill to swallow for a nation accustomed to success. The systems we take for granted, more fragile than we thought. The cracks are starting to show, revealing a vulnerability we can no longer ignore. So grab whatever non-Coke beverage you can find, whether it's a Pepsi, a Dr. Pepper, or even just a glass of water. We need to break down how America lost its most famous resident. Let's dive in and unravel this complex and troubling situation. What led to this carbonated catastrophe? The American Ingredient Purity Act of 2024. It required big food and beverage companies to source 95% of their agricultural ingredients from within the U.S. Sounds patriotic, right? But for Coca-Cola, it was a disaster. Coke's global supply chain relies on cane sugar from places like Brazil and India, ingredients the U.S. can't supply in the needed quantity or quality. The law forced Coke to either change its iconic recipe or face crippling fines. Politicians refused exemptions, insisting Coke could just use American ingredients. It's like telling NASA to build a rocket with only parts from one hardware store. After months of standoffs, Coke called their bluff and announced a total U.S. withdrawal, liquidating factories, bottling plants, and distribution networks. Lawmakers were stunned, never believing Coke would actually leave. But the economic fallout is just beginning. The Purity Act, meant to protect American jobs, instead triggered a corporate exodus. And now, the consequences are hitting home. The first shockwave, a tremor of economic uncertainty, hit the communities that had been carefully built around the Coca-Cola empire. These towns, once vibrant with the promise of industry, were about to face an unforeseen crisis. Over 60 major bottling plants, the heart of these communities, and hundreds of distribution centers, the arteries that kept them alive, went dark almost overnight. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the constant hum of activity that had defined these places for generations. These weren't just jobs. They were the lifeblood, the very backbone of towns in Alabama, Chicago, Pennsylvania, and countless other places across the nation. They were the foundation upon which families built their lives and futures. 90,000 direct jobs vanished in an instant. Bottlers, drivers, the people who kept the soda flowing, warehouse managers, the logistical masterminds, sales teams, the faces of the brand, all gone, leaving a void that was impossible to ignore. Maria Flores, a line supervisor in California who dedicated years of her life to the company, told us, "We were family. Now there's nothing, just an empty building, a hollow shell of what it once was, and scared people, unsure of what the future holds." But the pain didn't stop there. It was just the beginning of a much larger crisis. For every Coke job, several more depended on the company, creating a vast web of economic interdependence: bottle manufacturers, corn syrup farmers, trucking companies. The domino effect was brutal, a chain reaction of economic hardship rippling through communities. Suppliers lost their biggest client, their lifeline severed, local diners lost customers, the regulars who fueled their business, and small-town mechanics lost fleets to service, their livelihoods vanishing with the trucks. The Purity Act, meant to protect jobs and bolster the economy, ironically detonated an economic bomb in the heart of American communities. It's not just numbers on a report, it's not just statistics and figures, it's empty lunch pails, a symbol of lost income and uncertain futures, foreclosure notices, the heartbreaking reality of families losing their homes, and shuttered businesses, the dreams of entrepreneurs fading away. The local diner near the factory? Empty, a ghost of its former self. The mechanic? Out of work, his skills no longer needed in a town that's grinding to a halt. The American dream, for many hard-working individuals and families, just evaporated, leaving behind a sense of despair and uncertainty. All because of a law that fundamentally misunderstood how the world and business really works, a law with good intentions but devastating consequences. While Main Street reeled from the initial shock, the true extent of the damage was only beginning to surface. Local businesses, already struggling, faced an uncertain future. Wall Street melted down, gripped by a fear unlike anything seen in decades. The phones rang incessantly, orders flooded in, and panic set in. The moment Coca-Cola announced its exit from the U.S. market, a collective gasp swept through the financial world. Its stock, once a blue-chip staple, a symbol of American stability, plummeted over 40% in a single day, a freefall that stunned even the most seasoned investors. Hundreds of billions in value vanished into thin air, wiped out in a matter of hours. This marked the largest one-day loss for a consumer goods company ever recorded, a devastating blow that sent shockwaves across the globe. The panic spread like wildfire. If Coke, the seemingly untouchable giant, could be forced out, who was next on the government's list? The Dow plunged into a downward spiral, and companies like PepsiCo and McDonald's, icons of American culture, saw their stocks tumble in sympathy. Retirement portfolios, painstakingly built over decades, 401(k)s and mutual funds, once considered safe havens anchored by the stability of Coke, took a massive hit, jeopardizing the financial futures of millions. Dr. Anita Sharma, a leading NYU economist, called it a crisis of confidence, a fundamental questioning of the government's role in the market. The government's actions didn't just push out one company, however large, they undermined the entire U.S. market's stability, creating an environment of fear and uncertainty. International investors, once eager to invest in the American dream, grew wary of the unpredictable political climate, and the dollar dipped to historic lows as capital fled to more stable and predictable markets overseas. Credit ratings for consumer staples, once considered rock solid, dropped precipitously, and Wall Street's long-held reputation as a safe haven for investment was shattered into a million pieces. The Purity Act, meant to bolster the economy and protect American consumers, instead wounded it deeply, leaving millions of families with less financial security and the nation's economic credibility hanging precariously in the balance. The fallout from this unprecedented event? Still spreading, its effects rippling outwards to touch every corner of the economy. And the trust between the government, corporations, and the American people? Irreparably broken. Beyond factories and trading floors, Coke's departure carved a hole in everyday American life, especially for small businesses. For millions of diners, restaurants, and corner stores, Coke wasn't just a product, it was part of their identity and business model. The iconic red fountain machines, branded coolers, and the familiar "Is Pepsi okay?" all gone. Now owners scramble to replace equipment and find alternatives customers will accept. Movie theaters, which made huge profits from Coke, lost their highest margin product overnight. One theater exec put it bluntly, "We're trying to fill the void, but nothing has the same pull as a classic Coke." For small businesses, the loss is existential. Revenue drops, costs rise, and some may not survive. The Purity Act, meant to help, is poisoning small-town commerce one empty glass at a time. The American Main Street never looked emptier. To grasp the depth of this wound, look at Atlanta, Coca-Cola's birthplace and soul. The company's sprawling headquarters employed over 15,000 people and shaped the city's identity, philanthropy, and economy. Its departure triggered a collapse in Atlanta's commercial real estate, with office buildings empty and support businesses losing their customer base. The city's tax revenue is projected to fall by hundreds of millions, threatening public services. Atlanta faces an identity crisis, its most famous name now a ghost. In smaller towns like Paw Paw, Michigan, the closure of a Coke plant was a death sentence, hundreds of jobs lost, local businesses shuttered, and the town's future in doubt. Mayor Tom Gannon summed it up. That plant was the heart of Paw Paw. Now we're looking at becoming a ghost town. The Purity Act, in its quest for purity, sacrificed real prosperity. Communities across the nation are left with empty factories and broken spirits. The cost? Immeasurable. The lesson? Ignore at your peril. As the dust settles, economists and trade experts are saying, "We told you so." They warned that forcing 100% domestic sourcing on global supply chains was impractical and economically suicidal. Dr. Evelyn Reed testified before Congress. You can't just flip a switch and recreate decades of logistics inside your borders. The Purity Act was based on a romanticized past that doesn't exist. Modern efficiency and affordability depend on global interdependence. The administration misread its leverage. Coke is a global entity, not just an American one. The government played checkers while Coca-Cola played 3D chess. Now, the board is flipped, and the consequences are real. So here we are in a post-Coke America. The big question, who's next? The Purity Act still stands and other multinationals are in its crosshairs. The departure of Coca-Cola set a chilling precedent. America is willing to sacrifice its icons for a flawed ideology. Recovery starts with repealing or amending the act, but political gridlock makes that unlikely. The economic bleeding will continue as companies shift investments away from an unstable U.S. market. This should be a wake-up call. You can't legislate your way back to a bygone era. America's strength was always its adaptability and global integration. Rebuilding trust will take years, and humility. The empty shelves where Coke once sat are a symbol of lost jobs, shattered communities, and a crisis of confidence. If we can't keep Coca-Cola, what can we keep?